with this, it's impossible to upgrade through OLM. You would have to manually delete the CR, sorry, not CR, the CRD, the definition, and then install.
Yeah, that's how I got around it locally. Was to
Yeah, we did as well. Yeah.
So, is the solution to support both CRs and keep that stored?
Yeah, similar to what Autorino does. Autorino got around this problem by using the proper upgrade, how to upgrade CRDs in Kubernetes way, I would say.
Okay. Okay, so they've picked... Alex, go for it.
Yeah, sorry. I actually have text that I never submitted on this thing. I don't think it's a huge issue, to be honest. But I mean, like, given where the whole project is at, I mean, not having an upgrade path, I don't think is a huge deal. But maybe it's only me. And
so I agree with that. I think the problem is if we can't release the operator hub.
Yeah, because we already have Kuadrant operator there, and so they require, of course, the upgrade path to be there.
Is that true? Okay, I thought there was a way to publish and say that you don't support that upgrade path.
If there is, we are currently not using it, or we have not currently set up it in OLM that way. That might be a possibility, but yeah, go on.
I think we already had that. I'm sort of halfly looking at Agus, who may know more, or maybe I'm confused and I'm mixing things up, but I feel we already discussed that in the past. Am I drunk that early in the morning?
Yeah, and I think we decided we don't care. I mean, it's just about installing the new CRD. We don't provide an upgrade path as Autorino is doing. If anyone wants to avoid any loss of data, we can help on moving from the old format CRD to the new format, the new.
Yeah, I don't
CRD.
actually. I would also be fine with there no upgrade path if we actually, go agree with this. At least the state of project we are now in. But like I said, what I currently worry about is the operator hub release. I don't think it will go through. We can try and see.
So I guess the action here is okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. My recollection is also what the Guski says, right? So we kind of agreed not having a migration path from view 1 to view 2, which I think it's somehow captured by omission in this issue here, right? But only because it does not say anything about conversion webhooks or migration path or anything. So it's only about replacing the existing API with a new one. And on flagging about a previous version or migration path being supported or not, I'm also not aware if there's something regarding that in OLM. But even if it does, I think the issue you experienced, Craig, and the reporting that issue has nothing to do with OLM, right? But rather it's Kubernetes, if I'm not wrong.
No,
right?
it's OLM. It's OLM.
OLM tries to install it, and it fails the installation.
It's the install plan.
Yeah, install plan fails.
I wonder what would happen if we would just try to apply the new CRDs then.
Oh, it won't allow it. I don't think. Yeah,
the old one will vanish.
Okay.
Yeah, but what happens with the existing resources stored in etcd? They get deleted without a warning.
No, they don't. That's the problem.
No, no. Forget about OLM. If you just get the Kubernetes cluster and then apply the manifest for the new CRD.
I haven't tried, but I mean, you can do that and see what happens. I guess the old, maybe they are.
Maybe Roy.
Yes, I think I have tried this. If I remember correctly, if the apply will go through, the CRDs will be overwritten, but then the controllers will fail miserably because whatever is stored in etcd has nothing to do with your definition. So
Yeah, that would
it
that
will
would be
break. It will break.
my guess as well. Yeah, because
Yes.
the existing resources will be considered invalid, right? So when the controller requests for them, what the Kube API server gets cannot be parsed according to the new schema, right? Meaning that you would face issues regardless if it's OLM blocking the reinstall or if it's right after applying the version of the CRDs, but it would fail just the same. And therefore, either we provide a migration path or we just stated it's not supported. You need to clean up your cluster before, and you need to reapply your custom resources after following the new schema.
Yeah, which I think is fine because of where we're at with the projects. But the problem is if we can get through Operator Hub, right? That's really the core of the problem.
Yeah. I would say the next
So
action is just try it. Like we
Yeah.
can create a PR, see how we can create PR. We don't have to release it, right? So create PR,
Right.
see if tests fail, if they hit the issue, and yeah.
In Operator Hub, I'm just having a look here
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the Kuadrant. It says basic install is the only thing that's supported. It doesn't have like seamless upgrades ticked and
Yeah.
all the other.
Yeah, see.
Because there's different levels of operator, right? Like,
Yeah. But like we said, like I said, I believe we hit with DD some issues with the test before regarding much smaller details about upgradability. I would consider this to be a much bigger one that it probably will cut.
The way through would be just do not provide upgrade. Just you can only install fresh install. And yeah. So if you have installed an existing previous version, you need to delete it. Yeah.
right. That like I think having something like that is fine. It's just if that again, it's like is Operator Hub going to accept the update to the operator if it doesn't support the upgrade is the main issue, right? So
Yeah,
I think that's
if you, I mean, there is no upgrade using OLM. You can only install the new one. And if you already have installed the old one, you need to clean up. We can provide some documentation to clean everything. And once everything is clean, meaning the CSV description is gone, the CRTs are gone, and then installing a fresh install of Kuadrant will work.
okay. So I think the action here is to create the PR against Operator Hub and see can we get those tests to pass.
If there is no upgrade path, the tests should pass. I mean, shouldn't fail for the upgrade.
Okay.
Yeah, in the manifest of an operator release, we say if this is an upgrade from existing version or it's just a new fresh install thing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the replaces, the skip range, all these fields are used for defining whether we want an upgrade or we don't want an upgrade. But yeah, I mean, this kind of things, I guess in the current stage, we can afford.
Yeah. So DT, maybe, can you set up that PR for Operator Hub? Yep, cool. All right. Reach out in Slack if it doesn't work so that we can like take a bit of time together then to figure out what exactly we want to do if it doesn't work the way we think it does. There's a final PR from Guy around rate limit of policy V2, so of policy V2. It's a docs update, and I've started reviewing it, but feel free to have a look yourselves. That's the final one. And I'm not sure if I gave this update last week, but MGC testing is complete. So we're just really just waiting on that operator hub release. Okay, moving on. RFCs. So Peter, if you don't mind me just sort of talking here for a sec. So we have a bunch of old RFCs and they're still open. So I think we should take some time to review those and close them if they're not relevant anymore. So just a bit of maintenance around the RFC repo. If you own one, if you own an RFC, the PR is open, go review it, decide if you want to leave it open or close it, is my suggestion. Because quite a bit has moved on from some of those. Is that okay for you, Peter?
Yep.
Good. So on RFCs as well, so we talked in our roadmap about the EP713 and the RFC that DD put together. So I think we're kind of in agreement that option 2, which aligns with the Gateway API status, is where we want to go. So I'm wondering, do we want to put the other options into considered but rejected, something like that, so just to slimline it, and then maybe get it merged. DD.
Yeah, so I pushed some last commits that I highlighted that the option chosen was number 2 and why we chose that one, and that the option 1 just is as a previous consideration that we had. Also, I push yet another commit to align with the number of the RFC. So if actually the first to be merged is going to be number 4, it's actually ready.
Okay, so sounds like we're happy at this point. So maybe we can just mark it as approved and get that merged, and we can start implementing on it. Well, Jim has an RFC open here around configuration of subcomponents. I guess that's a call to action to go take a look at that. Jim, it's on my list. It's on there, but others also could take a look. And finally, we have another RFC around DNS policy in a single cluster from Mike Nairn. It's a draft at this point, but if you're interested in what we're planning with DNS policy in a single cluster, that's the place to go check it out. All right, that's like the housekeeping bit. So yeah, I'm going to go to the backlog. So we top of the backlog, we have Peter. Try that one, Peter.
Yep. Okay, so we agreed on the face-to-face to do regular builds, which kind of leads to more releases and like stuff like that. So I will just recap why we want this. First is, of course, if we do regular builds, we can do releases as often as we want to, because builds are the first way to create a release. Second, we as a QE need somehow to test it, and to do that, we need some build for us to be actually testable. And the reason for it is because Kuadrant is not one component, but many components. They interact differently, so we need something that is basically already glued together, so we don't have to glue it ourselves. So that's just the overview. Basically, what we require is some deliverable, I won't call which one, that has pinpointed exactly versions of images that are used. This can be done in many different ways. Right now, for the service protection team, the deliverables are the OLM catalog source, which entails everything else. And for MGC, it's the customize, basically a branch or something like this. And the first question I would like to ask, do we want to tackle the difference in deliverables right now as part of regular builds, or do we want to keep it as it is?
So I think we agreed that we wanted to use customize upstream for both. And we do have OLM in place. So we do have on the MGC, we have an OLM bundle and catalog in place. It's not published to the operator hub or anything yet.
So okay, so yeah, let's do builds, including only customize. I'm completely fine with that. If they are builds or pinpointed, that's all I need. Go on, Jin.
If we're doing the builds using customize, are we going to run the problem with upgrades then and simulating them?
Yeah, we do, I would say, because what is upgrade in customized world? I don't think it just overrides, right?
It's an OC replace, basically. Right?
Yeah. So I would say there is no actually upgrade path for customize right now. And if we want to release that build, we would then have to test the upgrade separately, or basically how we define what the upgrade is first. But yeah, I would say for the regular builds, upgrade is kind of not expected with customize. Is that okay?
I feel that we will be treating upgrades as a second-class citizen then, and it's only ever going to be left till we're releasing something to figure out if upgrades are broken or not.
Yeah, I kind of agree. However, I do not have solution for it right now if we want to use customize for upstream.
Yeah, I think it's a concern.
Yeah, exactly. I agree.
So quick question. What is it that needs to get upgraded? Is it like the resources, or are you guys talking about something else?
It can be anything. Images can change, resources can change, deployment.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like what else? Like imagine you replace everything with a customize. Yeah. What is the stuff that has to be migrated with an upgrade procedure? What are like the resources, like etcd resources? Are we talking about? Is there like a staple database somewhere? What is it?
Right.
Images get changed, right? Like they just upgrade.
Yeah.
They roll like that's handled by customize and queue. So I'm just wondering, what is it that needs to be migrated?
For example, I would say this is more of a edge case. But yeah, we changed CRD version, which can happen between builds, right? Those happen at irregular things, and that could break in the same issue that we discussed before.
Like typically, like well-behaved cube operators can handle multiple versions of resources. So the operator itself does, so it's not like a procedure you run to migrate your data.
Yeah, there is currently nothing like that. Yes.
So I still fail to see what it is that you guys think customize is going to fail you at. Like if you were talking about SQL database, I could see somebody saying, "Oh, we got to run a migration script to modify the database schema, blah 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 blah," right? All this kind of stuff. So I just want to know what it is that you guys are saying it's not customized. It's going to help you guys.
Right. The issue we mentioned before, right? We currently, right? You are correct. If we do it completely by the book, as Autorino did, we would have no problem. But the truth is, we are currently not doing that. And we decided that it's too much work. I'm rewording it, so guys, feel free to, correct me. So, yeah, that I would say. I would say there is a concern. I would say there is not a risk right now.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think it's a concern, a thing to keep an eye out when we do say that we'll do the multiple CRD version and blah, blah, in the operator, which we don't do, which is not even necessarily it's too much work. We don't think it's worth the work today, right? I think that's what we're trying to say. So that's one. Then the hypothetical thing that I can think of hasn't been the case so far, and we tried really hard to not have it be that, is the state that limitador holds, right? That being said, I think when that day comes, we can also ponder the pros and the cons and how we deal with that. So today would be a stateful Redis to answer your question, Aaron.
Got it. So, and if we ever break compatibility of those layers, then we're like, well, we understand we broke it, and we're not going to have a migration path, and like we don't.
Which we might have, right? It's just right now we tried really hard not to break it. We haven't broken it yet.
Yeah. No, but I'm just saying, if you guys make a choice to break it, then you don't have to test the upgrade because you guys don't have an upgrade. You guys are choosing to break the path, the upgrade path, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just saying, like, I don't see the like customized adding a problem to your upgrade, stuff. So that's all I was saying.
No, it's just I think what Jim was trying to say is we need just to be mindful of that, and then when that day happens, that's all clearly documented or whatever. Just not to lose track of it, I guess.
I think that is the thing, is being aware that things could break, and when they do, we should document it when it does, right? Jim, you might be thinking a bit more about like running something as a service and avoiding downtime and all that kind of stuff, which the upgrade path becomes a lot more critical in that scenario.
I probably am tainted by that, yes.
Yeah, so I still think it's viable to use Kustomize. I can think of one situation that I don't know if Kustomize supports, which is if you remove the component. You may have to document that and say like you need to delete this component first before running. I'm not sure if it deals with that or not.
So I would argue you guys should use Kustomize with an Argo CD deployment to your production or staging systems, right? And then that way Argo handles deleting all your shit.
Do we want to like say the Argo is recommended? I don't. Yeah, that seems like a necessary component to me.
I don't think. Sorry, Farm, don't want to talk on your behalf. My reading of what Hiram was saying there was that not that we like ship Argo CD with stuff, just that like we test it with Argo CD and say we recommend using like a GitOps flow.
Yeah, like we're gonna test this out, right? We're gonna use Kustomize and we're gonna deploy it to like a staging system or QA system. I'm just saying, like if you want to make sure it cleans up after itself, like after deployments and stuff, use Argo to deploy our Kustomize scripts.
Okay, that's acceptable. I would like to still. Yeah, I would like to say the way without Argo should be the primary one. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, but I mean, even Argo is doing what we say is the primary, which is use Kustomize.
Okay, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? It's just, if you use Argo with us, then you know that like all the resources are tracked and stuff that shouldn't be there gets automatically deleted and stuff like that. There's like, Argo does some nice things, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we can. One thing that worries me is the multiple options during installation that we may enable to customers, right? I see how Argo can solve that problem, but if we are not ourselves using Argo, or in all of our examples, installing Argo and showing the scripts we're using there in the pipeline to get Kuadrant installed ourselves, we might need something in between Argo and Kustomize, right? And I'm thinking on things like, oh, you do need a certain manager installed, for example. I know how you can get that covered in Kustomize, but once you turn that into a flag, something that the user can choose either to install it or just skip it because it already has installed in that particular cluster, that is where usually Kustomize fails. I know you can have overlays, but having overlays for covering all the combinations of options during install, it's probably a no-go with Kustomize.
Yeah. I mean, like when people use Kustomize to target a specific environment, they always create a new overlay for that environment. Like that's just the way it is. Because Kustomize itself is like a static configuration without an overlay. So I don't even see how somebody could change, like tweak the configuration, unless one of your predefined overlays or configurations it's exactly what you want, you're always going to have to create another overlay, right?
Yeah, that's precisely the point. I mean, it works very well for opinionated deployments, right? So where you can pick one overlay, and that's what you get, right? You're not
No.
tweak
What I'm saying is, the real world, everybody always creates an overlay. There's no other way customized can work. Because you want to override configuration for your environment, and the only way to override configuration and customize is by creating another overlay.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying, just be comfortable recommending customers create another overlay to extend your configuration, because that's the way customize works.
Okay. All right, makes sense. Maybe we can come up with a short list of all the different scenarios that we want to demonstrate, right? And we can have our own overlays, standard ones for.
Yeah, I like that. And examples of like, yep.
Exactly, yep. Cool.
Okay. So do we have an issue for installing the Kuadrant service protection stuff with Kuadrant, with Kustomize?
No, but this is what I wanted to get through, because to the second questions, should we use the feature lead process we discussed at the face-to-face for this? And secondary question, should we have an RFC for this?
I was away for that day. I need to catch up on what we discussed there. RFC.
Can we just do it like pragmatically and see like how porting what exists in across cluster world, like to our world, like what it means, if there are any point of contentions, and based on that, see if what is it we want to do. Is what I'm proposing making sense?
I don't think I follow. Like try it out and then create?
No, what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, it depends what you're asking effectively, right? If it's only about the customized stuff, like it would effectively apply the same pattern or whatever that exists so far in our repos, port them to the service protection world, see how that works. If there are points of contentions or whatever, then open the debate then. But if that's a seamless process, then I don't think, it's effectively nothing. I'm fairly ignorant about that bit, so that's maybe why I'm saying those things. Just, do this sort of effectively open, like create an issue, open a PR.
Yeah.
Right.
The way I see it is similar, right? You cannot install it with Kustomize right now, right? So providing a way to even just install it without even first thinking about all the upgrade stuff and things like that we've just discussed is an advantage to the community, because right now you have to go through all of them, right? So like start with that simple use case and solve it, right? So install with Kustomize service protection components and lean on what's done in MGC.
Okay, so is this an Epic level issue?
I'd say it's just
because for us it would be great if we had somewhere to track it, because for us the whole package is one thing, right?
Yeah, I think you could argue it is just because of the way our repo and whatnot madness happens, right? So and then create the doc, and then from there, the page or the quick install, quick start, whatever guide thing that would give you effectively the recipe to be tested. So I don't think it's an Epic per se in the sense that it's huge, but just because of the split up tasks.
Yeah. Organization. Yeah.
So yeah. Does that make sense, Peter?
Okay. Yeah. So create an issue in architecture channel, then create separate issues in all the projects that are affected by it, and go from there.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Still time. It's good. So next we have my item around custom policies and focus policies. Okay, so with Chris and others talking about API management, got some discussion going, and Hiram was chatting to me as well about policies and things that other providers offer in and around Gateway API or not gateway, API gateway functionality. So some offer ways to inject custom logic. So Solo, for instance, offers the ability to add a WASM extension. And it got us thinking about, well, Envoy also has like a Lua filter where you can do a bit of scripting in Lua to do some stuff in Envoy. I got us thinking about, it's unlikely we're going to cover every use case with Quadrants. Is there an opportunity for providing, let's call it like a custom extension, right? A custom policy that we need to put some guardrails around, right? So using like the policy attachment structure. Sorry, my phone is ringing. Let me just cancel that off. Using the policy attachment structure to target, say, like a HTTP route, which perhaps plugs in the WASM, but then allows execution or injection of some form of custom code. That's the subject. It's not hugely well defined right now, but is an idea that I wanted to get people's thoughts on. Yeah, go Alex.
Yeah. So I'm gonna step back a bit. I think the work that we said we'd look into doing for the authentication through WASM, I think there is probably something there to emerge from the stuff that that we do at the controller level, the soul, everything's in everything, I guess, right? But how do you, from a policy, figure out what configuration you need to inject inside that WASM plugin so that it does kick in at on the right requests, I guess, right? So all that could be abstracted, and hopefully will be with that work so that we avoid repeating ourselves. But I feel like there's kind of a framework emerging for the WASM module itself to run that would become reusable. So that's one part that I see of that. Then come all the hard questions, right? Like, what would this look like? What can you do? Can you do a gRPC or HTTP request from within that random code bit? How do I even know what kind of information needs to be compiled by the operator so that the WASM thing even knows what it needs to do? So anyways, I feel it's a very wide subject, but the good news is I think some of those things may become clearer with the work with the authentication bits, but I would certainly love to hear a Gus take on all that. Sorry to push you under the bus.
My name is Ebuski, so maybe not me. No, sorry for the joke. Exactly. I'm in the same line of thinking. By the way, the examples that you wrote there, OpenID Connect policy, API key policy, rel limits are already covered by our existing auth policies and rel limit policy. But yeah, it's a kind of what you said. It's WASM plugins hub we can rely on, and all of them in the end, depending its implementation details, but it can be something if it's very custom, or maybe there is already a filter for that in the Envoy wall or wherever. Not the Envoy, because we shouldn't focus on the Envoy. It should be abstracted in the gateway provider, so we should be using the gateway provider APIs, Envoy gateway or HTO or whatever. So I guess it's.
Is there an opportunity?
Well,
is there an opportunity to provide Alex, what I was taking from what you were saying there was there's kind of a higher level API emerging, which could be reusable, as in use this framework when you're creating policy. I just called it policy WASM there, right? But that there's like a set of things that will get called in your code based on what we've abstracted away, right? So like an API. But I wonder as well if there's an opportunity for doing something where you don't need to do WASM, right? Maybe so the idea that go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was going to say that the WASM is the implementation detail, in the sense that depending on the underlying gateway, for it could be already implemented, and we only need to link the dots, and it's in the sense we let's say for one example, one concrete example can be cars. So it's already there. So if we can define or design a policy for cars with policy attachment, and when Kuadrant finds that, the implementation detail is that it needs to set up the course filter using the gateway provided APIs.
I feel like maybe there's a little bit of confusion here. So we're talking more about like I have something small that I want to do that's really custom to my application, and I want to write like a script, right? Like a piece of JavaScript, a piece of Lua code that then gets injected into the gateway within the bounded context of the policy target, right? And then executed like on request, on response, basically will be called in your script.
Here's a good example. Like, let's say I have a complex request coming in, and like I need to route the request to the right upstream backend because maybe the request is geographically specific. Like I need to go access data that lives in Germany, right? Because it's user data or some shit like that. And I have to look at the request and decode, oh, that's a Germany thing. So I compute something, and then I set some header that lets the rest of the request chain know which upstream to use. You know what I'm saying?
But I think what you define, correct, is WASM. I mean,
it could be done with a WASM filter for sure. But like, let's say I don't know how to write Rust code or Go code, and all I am is a JavaScript or Lua script developer. How can I use this platform?
I think I followed now. Sorry.
Plus, it's not only the language thing, right? There's this entire like connecting the dots, right? What you have, I don't know what people envision, but imagine like kind of a crazy thing where you attach a policy that has like the script attached to it, right? I'm making shit up, right? But this policy itself is attached to a network resource, whatever it is. Based on that, what you're saying, right? Targeting some HTTP routes or whatever, right? All the stuff that we deal with. And now what you want to have is this script execute when a request hits that route, right? That's why I think, well, I like Aaron's example. This one's particularly touchy because it's tried to address routing itself. But so let's think of one that doesn't address that, right? You want to have that now triggered. All that plumbing is the stuff that we do, right? That we have done for rate limiting and that we're looking at doing for auth. So that's why I'm thinking like something will emerge. Then I guess the follow-up question then becomes, yes, to what was raised, like what is it that we want to target, right? So we could absolutely do kind of, I don't know, you're a JavaScript developer, be my guest, write some JavaScript. Then comes the interesting questions, I think, which are really related to how like a proxy works and what kind of, I don't know, easy enough, right? For a definition that's very, well, whatever easy means to this target audience of an API that you provide them with, right? Because, right, I guess you know about that, like the whole base thing and the WASM proxy API may not be the easiest one to wrap your head around if you're trying to do quote unquote something that you believe is simple, but actually is not. and becomes
Right.
kind of hard for you to implement.
I think that's kind of the point as well, right? Like if you bring it down to, hey, we're going to take care of all that hard stuff around the routing and stuff, and we're going to call on request, right? We're going to pass you the request object, and then we're going to call on response, right? When the response comes back, and that's it for now, right? You know, that's what will happen, right? So.
And that touches on the boundaries that I asked, right? What lets you do? What do you let the script do, right? Can it do a outbound request to some other server? Can it, like, what sort of lines do we draw around? That's the kind of things you could do.
I would say yes. It can do everything, anything. Why not? Like, why wouldn't you let it do anything?
It is bound by the WASM sandbox as well, though. Right, so the WASM itself is executed in a sandbox in the proxy, so you can't do things like, I think you're not allowed to like read files, for instance, from the. There's a couple of things that I can't remember the exact details, but there's certain things you can't do within like the WASM sandbox within. So that would be the boundary. I think.
Okay. So whatever the ABI lets you do, we sort of let the user do.
Yeah, I think that would be the net.
I mean, there's another aspect to this, which is I think the first phase of this is we want only to be able to call policies, custom policies that an administrator allows. Administrator on that cluster said you can call these policies. That's fine if AppSec sees custom policies, right? That way we don't have to worry about untrusted policies running in a shared gateway between the tenants, right? Like that's another problem that I don't think we want to tackle, right? Like a policy that has a loop in it to like just eat up all of the CPU on the shared gateway, like to avoid those problems.
Yeah, you definitely want some auditing on like what can you execute inside that.
Yeah.
Again, it is in a sandbox, right? So, like, I'm not actually sure what that sandbox does around resource usage and things like that, or if it gets killed after.
Well, that's on a per proxy, but when you say a sandbox, so maybe that's too much in the weeds. But so you're thinking about another WASM module that's being loaded that would do those things, or would we mash that together with ours?
I don't know that I've gone that far in my head, but I guess if I was to make a decision today, it would be a separate module loaded separately. And ours would be a different module, right? My share code would be a different module.
Yeah, that's the framework stuff that I guess I was mentioning. Yeah. And others are random questions. So because we threw a few languages around, like any idea what you would want those scripts to be written in?
I would probably go for JavaScript just because it's so pervasive in the developer world, right? Most people can stumble through JavaScript.
Yeah, I tend to think like any script would work, but you know, JavaScript probably is better.
In TreeScale, we have this framework we call policy framework. Policy meaning the custom logic, and we have some documentation how to build your custom policies. We as TreeScale we ship some built-in policies for most of the functionalities you may want, but there is this something else which is the custom policies. So you can write your own policy. You follow some structure in files, naming, some functions, convention, some functions need to be called some way, and your functions get called, and you can do things to request and to the response. It's based on Lua, and because the TreeScale, our web framework, work platform is in the gateway is based on Lua on top of Nginx. So we are, in the end, we are building on top of that. So it's Lua is usually being widely used on this type of for this type of features, for the type of issues. It's quite easy to handle language, although it has its own problems, and it's not, to be honest, it's not the state of the art or the trending language, but still being widely used, not only in the railway world, also in the gaming world. Also, Lua is the preferred scripting language for customizing your plugins for your games. But yeah, I mean, I guess you are looking for something similar. We do all the heavy lifting, you write your Lua,
Right.
and we put everything in our Wasm or Lua filter, and that is being run. I think I follow what you mean. Yeah.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Yeah. I know that 3Scale already did that. So that is the existing, that is the functionality that we're talking about from just scanning that doc there.
By the way, they use these kind of policies to change configuration of Nginx that we have hard-coded because we don't see any use case for that, but in the end it has. So
Right.
things like
That's
that.
it. Like there are lots of use cases out there that where we're like, well, we're not going to write a policy for that, right? But you could write your own little scripts, right, that might do that.
I'm not like I think it would be ideal if you could run these policies inside the gateway, like via WASM. But even then, like I'm not even like I don't think we have to. Like we could, if we have to, like it's fine if we go off process and do a remote call into your policy, similar to how the auth plugin stuff works, right?
It's interesting.
These are options. These are all options. So like for example, if we say that you write your policies in Lua and we're going to run it in Nginx container and maybe even provide all the same APIs as 3Scale did for their policy bits, that might be okay as long as we provide tight integration to do that remote integration with the gateway API stuff. I don't know. These are all open options. I'm just saying the end result is a user should be able to provide some custom little script to make it easy to do something that we out of the box don't do. You know what I'm saying?
Keith, go ahead.
I know we've been discussing of was possibly being the framework for this custom policy thing, but I still would like to point out that recently Envoy halt development on the WASM future. I think I even seen the word deprecated somewhere to favor either WASM for the extensions or the newer Golang plugin HTTP future, whose link I've just pasted on the chat.
Oh, that's interesting news. Oops. Sorry, dog background. So they probably that's almost separate to this, maybe. Sorry, it's my dog. It's like.
So sorry, like, Guy, can you point to where, like, exactly what you think is deprecated in favor of Go stuff? Because I really need to dig that up. That seems like.
I need to do some digging, but I read that, right? So after they released the Go plugin HTTP future in Envoy, they mentioned that they stopped developing the Lua future one, and they pointed the Go one and the WASM one as being the preferred.
Okay. You mean instead of, sorry, I understood like use Go instead of WASM. And I was like,
no.
Like technical nonsense. Okay,
no,
that
use
makes more
WASM
sense.
and Go instead of Lua.
Okay. Sorry, misunderstood you there. I was like, no, but so, anyways, right? We could, like, you could absolutely run like a Lua VM inside WASM.
Yeah, sure.
Done that before.
It could be, I think, anything we wanted, right? Even JavaScript, as Craig mentioned.
Yeah, though JavaScript's interesting, but yeah.
If there is any research behind all that, right? For some reason, they once chose Lua, they moved away from Lua. Now there is Go. and WASM is something that I would guess it's here to stay.
So for me, this sounds like, yes, this is something that is possible and that we may want to explore, right? I don't think we need to sort of make this super high priority, but I think it would be good to do a kind of a POC to show what might be possible, right? And obviously that would need to be prioritized along with all the other work that is currently on our blog. Sorry about my dog there. So I think that's the outcome from this, right? Is to take the use case, gather some examples, and define like a POC, and go from there. Yeah, go Geet.
This whole conversation, Craig, kind of raises a more existential question to me, I think, which is exactly what kind of new policies we want to pursue, right? I understand that this one would be the most generic we can imagine, right? Basically a framework for users to create whatever kind of extension to the filter chain they want, right? But by comparison with the other kind of policies that we have, at least in the service protection, right? So auth policy and rate limit policy, those two kind of policies, they have one thing in common, which is the fact that we do have our own specialized service that takes care of that concern, right? So maybe the reason for going with Kuadrant rate limit policy, it's not necessarily the policy attachment aspect of it, right? But the fact that you do have a proper rate limit service behind it, and the same for all, right? I know that once we add DNS policy and TLS policy might not feel the same. I don't know, because technically there is no external service. At the same time, there is some specialization on what those policy controllers do as well, right? So I think what I'm heading is, what really is the expertise we are delivering here? Is it the policy attachment framework, and basically the ability to make it anything, all those plumbing that Alex mentioned before, or it's the specialized service that actually delivers the functionality?
So I think it's kind of a little bit of both, unfortunately, right? Because the thing is, like, for example, all the big players in the API gateway space, people go to them because they have tons of policies that they can just use out of the box, right? And it just works, and it just does stuff, and they have to write very little code to get, those kinds of capabilities. But they also do have the extension mechanism, so that if you're doing something funky, or you can't get something to work right, you can just plug in something custom in that request chain. So I think it's a little bit of both.
I would totally agree with that. Like we've got a whole bunch of expertise around auth rate limiting, DNS. There may be some other areas, right? Like one of the areas we've been talking about was observability, right? Maybe we have an observability policy, an endpoint observability policy that allows you to, add dimensions to metrics from the proxy. Like, would you want to do that yourself in a script? Probably not, right? Like, so if you can lean on something where you can just define a bit of configuration and it works and does what you need, you're probably going to go that route rather than like writing your own custom scripts, right? But to Hiram's point, it's like that set of use cases where like, there's probably as we grow the community and things like that, there'll probably be quite a few use cases where we're like, oh yeah, we're not going to support that. We're not going to support that. We're not going to, but we do have this other mechanism for you to take that and do something with it, right? In your own way.
Okay, thanks.
Just on that, just last point on that is, I think as well, like there are a large set of policies in these gateway providers, but an action that I want to take is to basically draw up a matrix between what it is that like auth policy and rate limit policy and DNS policy provide versus what's in those catalogs, because quite a number of them are just subsets of what auth policy can do, right? Like, it's like basic auth policy or OpenID connects policy. They're like subsets of functionality that auth policy can provide, which we haven't had time to actually talk about it, but it was one of the things I wanted to kind of touch on was, do we want to potentially look at a powerful subset that like solve a very specific use case that isn't like the sort of super powerful toolbox that is off policy, right? Which I think has been mentioned by others. I can't remember if it was at the face-to-face or somewhere else. But Alex, last comment for today, because we've dropped.
Yeah, I was about to say, actually, it's a thing that maybe at the face-to-face, but I know last time I was in Barcelona, we already discussed, like bring sort of higher level abstractions on the policies that we have to make some use cases easier for people to apply.
Yeah. Let's bring that one. Let's discuss that one a bit further maybe next time. But I'll put it back up to the backlog for now. I'll take an action to define a POC here, unless somebody else feels they want to do that. Other than that, we can probably leave it there. All right. Thanks, everyone.